Welcome. This particular video is about models within Unity 3D models interacting with themselves. So far, we've looked at how to place something on the scene and have it interact with things that are in the scenery. This time, it's going to be the models interacting with each other. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at the action that I'm talking about. And notice as this one comes walking by within a certain distance, the wolf sits down, and at a certain distance away, the wolf stands back up. So that's the interaction that we're going to take a look at and see how to do in Unity. So first thing I want to do, let's take a look at the model. This is the, well, I call it the druid, and it's supposed to be a druid that patrols this particular forest. And so the druid simply walks the perimeter of the forest all the way around. Also with this, we have one animation with this particular model. And this one animation, while it's got a weird name on it, all it means is walking. This is the walking animation that this particular 3D model can do. That's all. So I'm going to take a look at the controller. And on this one, the animator controller just simply shows, okay, when you start the game, have the model start walking. And that's literally all there is to it. And once that starts, that's what the model does for the entire time the game is running. It walks the perimeter. Okay, now let's take a look at the wolf. And the wolf has multiple animations that it can do. And in this particular case, the only one that I'm making use of, well, let's take a look at the animator for the wolf. Okay, I've got all of the different animations that the wolf can do, just make it easier to get to if I need them. But the only one I'm working with is the wolf sitting down. Now, this one gets kind of interesting. Notice that the speed for sitting down is a speed of 1. Well, after the wolf sits down, if I don't have a sit up or get up from sitting down, then it's just a real jerk motion that all of a sudden the wolf is sitting down, all of a sudden it's standing up. And no, that's not what we want. We want that motion. Well, if the animation is sit down for sitting up, I run the animation -1, and it runs it backwards. So when it's time to sit down, sit down. When it's time to sit up, run the sit down animation backwards, and it sits up and it goes back to this empty state. Again, the illustration being what is it about the walking druid that causes the wolf to sit down? And that much is handled in code. Okay, so let's see, going back to the animator itself. Oh, we got it right here. Notice that I have added in a parameter, and you do that just by clicking what do you want. And this one was a Boolean, and it'll say, okay, what do you want to name it? And I just called it wolf sit. So wolf sit right now is false. Wolf sit can be turned true via code, and that's actually how we pull this off. All right, so I want to take a look at the code now. And so I'll need to, let's start with the druid. The druid is fairly simple. And now then I need to share that code screen so you can see it. Okay, and as we go through it, this one is, it's just pretty standard. Nothing particularly strange about it. You start off by getting a hold of the animator for the druid, okay? And that's what you need to do. We have a counter because we have to have some way for the druid to know when it's time to turn and not run off into Never Never Land. And so we'll do that with the count. So to get the druid to move, that's a translate. And so we go with transform, translate, and that says we're wanting to move you. And what we're wanting to do is move you just an inch every update. Remember, this is not every step. This is every update. And I believe there's 24 frames for the walk. So we need to move 0.045 to make it look right. And all we're doing is matching the speed of the animation that's out there with the speed that we're moving around, just so it looks correct. Then how far do we go? Well, we go 1,620 updates, and it's time to turn left. And so at that point, we turn left, we reset the counter, then we go through this again, uching a little bit down on every update. And when we hit 1620 updates again, it's time to turn left again. And so we just keep repeating this. Walk all the way down a side, turn left, walk all the way down that side, turn left, and it just keeps going forever. Okay, so that's for the Druid. Now for the Wolf, all right, again, not a lot of code to pull this off. Okay, so first thing, game object, I need to find the Druid. Okay, and so I have a game object that I'm calling Druid. And let's see, since this is public, that will give me a little spot over in the Unity engine to say, which object am I calling the Druid? And we'll take a look at that in a minute. Okay, distance is how far apart the Druid is from the Wolf. And then this animation, the animator is going to be for the Wolf itself. And so we say animator get component animator. When I don't say which object to go get the component animator of, it assumes this object, which is in this case the Wolf. Okay, so we start with getting the animator. Our update routine, let's find out what is the distance between the Druid and the Wolf. Okay, so to do that, you can use a command called vector3.distance, and you tell it the two positions that you want to know the distance of. So the first one is, okay, what is the Druid's? Transform again has to do with the location. So what is the Druid's position? And this is this, which is the Wolf, and the Wolf's, go get the transform position. So what's the distance between the Druid's position and the Wolf's position? Well, if that distance is less than 3, how do I know to use 3? I tried 5, that didn't work, okay? So I started just trying different numbers till it was about where I wanted it to be. And if the distance between the Wolf and the Druid is less than 3, tell the Wolf to sit down. Remember, that turns that one parameter to true. And when the parameter is true, the Wolf does the sitting animation. Now, as long as you're coming through the updates and the distance between the Druid and the Wolf is still less than 3, just keep sitting, okay? And then whenever the distance gets greater than 3, turn the Wolf sit to false, in which case we run the sitting animation backwards, and then that has the Wolf stand back up. And so this is how this is done, is with what's the distance. This is one way to do it. There's other ways to do it. We could do it with some collisions and putting a bubble around the Druid, and whenever the bubble touches the Wolf could sit. There's, like I say, ways to do it, but this one works just fine. And this is what controls the animation from between the Wolf sitting down, the Wolf standing up. Okay, so now let's go back. That's the code that goes with this. Let's look at the animator again for the Wolf. Okay, the Wolf just is there. And this animation right here, okay, we do empty state to the Wolf sitting. When do we do that? Whenever Wolf sit is true. Then the animation that runs says, okay, do it, but do it backwards. If we check that transition, then in that transition, it says whenever Wolf sit is false. So if Wolf sit is false, run through this animation. And whenever the animation is through, you simply unconditionally stand back up and just stay there. And so this is combining the animator with its parameters and accessing all that in code and using it to control. Now then, if I can remember right, Wolf, there it is. Here is from our script, there is our public variable Druid. And what did we want for the Druid? Well, just grab the Druid and click and drag it over here. And that's what we're talking about. Now, if I wanted the distance between the wolf and anything else, then I could replace Druid with anything else that happened to be here. So that's in this particular case, though, if the Druid gets close enough, I want to sit down. When the Druid is too far away, I want to stand back up. Okay, and one more time, let's see if we can get this to play. See how long it takes to start. Okay, there we go. And watch when we get within 3. And then when we get further away than 3, and that's how these interact. And if I let this just run, it takes a while because the Druid is walking as opposed to the wolf that was running in a prior video. And this is a much larger area that we're working with. And it takes a while for the Druid to get all the way around the perimeter, but when the Druid does and comes back within 3, again, the wolf will sit down and then stand back up. And so this is the wolf object 3D model and the Druid 3D model interacting with each other.